Good evening and welcome to the financial series here with the Renaissance Fellowship, also with Mr. Corey D. Moody, CPA, CVA. And we're so privileged to have you here this week. And we're hoping and praying as you come on. We see that a lot of people have not joined us yet. We want you to take a few moments. There you go. I see you coming in. Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you so much for coming in. Ladies and gentlemen, it is so awesome to be alive today. And we just thank God for all that He continues to do. Let me say this, that we're looking for you to register. We need you to register, ladies and gentlemen. I'm up here doing three things at once. There we go. I got it. All right. We're looking for you to register. We need you to register. Go to the link, the Renaissance Fellowship page on Facebook, and please register because, again, these sessions will be moving to Zoom. They'll be moving to Zoom. And then if you're on these different settings, you will not be able to see. So, again, we just thank God for this privilege and opportunity. At this time, we're gonna go to the Lord in prayer. Let's have a word of prayer as we begin at this time. Let's have a word of prayer. Father, we just thank you tonight for our gathering. We thank you for how you continue to bless and guide and glean, and how you have allowed us to have a whole new day. We know that this is the day you have made. We shall rejoice and be glad in it. And we're glad to begin again another night session, even as Nellis is doing their things, doing the flyover. We thank you tonight, oh God, how you continue to just keep us in perfect peace with our minds stayed on you. God, we just thank you. We ask those that participate tonight, Lord, we hope and pray that they glean something that will help them in their financial status and through this series. We also ask special blessings on our presenter tonight, Mr. Corey D. Moody, certified public accountant, certified valuation analyst. We thank you for his time, his talents, his energy, and his knowledge. Bless us, oh God. Keep us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I want to bring on Mr. Corey D. Moody, certified public accountant, certified valuation analyst.
All right.
Welcome to the Financial Series, hosted by Corey D. Moody, an internationally known CPA, CVA for over 20 years, and a USA World Champion runner. The Financial Series focuses on Bible-based knowledge about our personal value and financial value from biblical days to present day. Speaking from years of experience in accounting, finance, and wealth management, here's your host, Corey D. Moody.
Okay, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. And it's been another great week. And I really look forward to these Wednesdays because it allows me to kind of check on myself to see where I am. And one of the things we've really been working on is really trying to understand what wealth is, the value system, and what value and what God really has to say about it. And what I found in my 30-something years of experience is, so much of this is mental. We have mental barriers to break through. And so one of the things, as we start working into the new series and start having our work papers and filling out forms, one of the things that's important is honesty with ourselves. And what do we really think about wealth individually? I mean, what do we really think about wealth? And what are some of the indicators we use to measure our own progress or what's going on with wealth to kind of see where we are? And what outside influences, impacts our decisions? And who do we listen to? And do we listen to them because of a status? and not necessarily from a financial status, like, I'm a CPA, but not someone like that, but people outside of your professional issues. I mean, what really pays attention? What do you really pay attention to? And we have to be honest with ourselves to really move on, because that honesty allows us to really get some concepts down and make decisions that we need to do in order to move forward. My life has been up and down. I mean, real low and real high. It's been a roller coaster. I probably have one of the largest spread, from the lows to the highs. We all have lows and highs. They talk about, people with certain habits, they have to hit rock bottom. In what areas have we hit rock bottom in our lives to get us to really kind of move forward? What really motivates us? And, I've had the opportunity to talk with over thousands of people and couples, dealing with finances. And what I've come to learn that I know more about their finances than anybody else in their life. And not even their pastor knows what I know about their finances. And when you really kind of dig into finances and you go through people's bank statements, you really get to really see what's going on. And I have people really open up to me. And, we've had a lot of crying sessions. And it's not so much crying about the money as it is the life, our lifestyle. What are we really going through? And, that can be real tough. And there's some things in my life that I wish never happened. And they did. And I had to learn how to press through. And sometimes pressing through can kind of be offensive to people. But we have to learn to press through. And what I kind of mean by that is, we've been taught, we read, to forgive and not hold grudges, don't worry about revenge. But I want to ask some honest questions. And, how well do we really forgive? I won't say forget. And can we really forgive ourselves for what we've gone through? And do we kind of self-sabotage our own life, even in the financial arena? Is that what we do? To try to say, well, I knew it wouldn't work because I did this. Things happen, in our lives all the time, and it's just a matter of where we go forward. Well, if we believe God forgives us, we have to truly believe that, and we have to really act on that. And it can get tough to act on that depending on our surroundings. And I mean people who we hang around. And I remember when I first got saved, it was like, you might have to change your friends and you hang around new people. And that's true. But I also found it happens when we get saved and we get into the church. Who do we listen to? Who has our ear to tell us the good, the bad, the ugly? And what do we do with that information? And one of the things we talked about earlier is the covenant. God gives us a covenant. And that covenant is an individual contract, covenant that each one of us has with God. And we cannot take that lightly. And, 3 years ago is when I had my epiphany that, life is going to be different. I knew it was going to be different. I didn't know though. But that's when he told me, I'm getting ready to extend your contract. So, in athletics, and even in entertainment and even in our jobs, we sign employment contracts. I want to talk it from a sports perspective because, I kind of understand that a little bit, and it seems like a easy way to kind of bring it together. You know, athletes sign contracts, and in the NFL, they're not guaranteed contracts. So sometimes you may hear people say they signed a contract, they say honor it. Well, in the NFL, it's a little different because it's not guaranteed. That owner can cut you tomorrow and don't owe you a dime. Well, in the other sports, the NBA, Major League Baseball and hockey, and some of the other sports, they're guaranteed. So if they cut you, they still have to pay you. NFL's a little different. But in all of them, depending on your past character, they may put a morality clause in it. And when God came and saw me 3 years ago, he said, I'm going to extend your contract, but we're going to put some new terms in it. I'm going to upgrade your morality clause. And we have to understand that that is an important piece of the contract. But to get an extension, to get a raise, and you remember when Abram got his raise, we have to do certain things. And my years of just talking with business owners and individuals from, we can get stuck. And what makes us move forward? And one of the things I've come to learn and understand, you don't know what is in anybody else's covenant or contract. Now, we all got some standard morality clauses in our contract. But the dues is what propels you to get that raise. I've talked earlier about, do we focus on the don'ts, what we're not supposed to do, as opposed to what we need to do? And that's where the increase come in. That's where, God really moves, because he gives us the strength to really move forward. And how does that look in our own life? I'm negotiating, or he's getting ready to give me my new contract, and I'm looking forward to it. I got some stiffer clauses in my contract than I had before, but I also have some bigger incentives. And are we willing to see? We accept the don'ts because we just think that's what we're supposed to do, because we want to, please God, or we don't want to go to hell. We're preventing ourselves from moving forward. In football, a team may be up, they go to what they call a prevent defense. They just kind of pull back, and they, ordinarily they wouldn't let you have certain plays, but they're going to give you 5 yards, 6 yards, and let you kind of come down the field. And it's been said, what that does is really prevent you from winning. And I'm saying that, do we focus on the don'ts more than what we're supposed to do? Because we can't get a raise or a reward if we're not doing anything. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe if I don't do the don'ts, I'm going to get raises. And even though I'm not doing anything, I'm going to get blessed. But if we're honest with ourselves, do we really say the don'ts because we're afraid of going to hell? Is that really what drives us? Are we afraid to get out there and push the envelopes, make the mistakes? What I found in my years of just talking with thousands of people, those have been successful from a measurement perspective, monetarily, constantly are always going forward. And they live a good moral life also. Some better than others. But what I learned in my years is, I don't know what's in anybody else's covenant. And you can't judge that they're doing God's work or not. And I'm saying that not from us not to judge people. as it is do we judge ourselves, even though we shouldn't judge people because you don't know. But I'm saying it how we hold ourselves back. And I'm just talking from the thousands of people that I've talked with. And when people talk to you about their money, they lay it on the line. I hear everything. So it's important that we understand, what do we need to do to really get into a covenant contract with God? Have we just been focusing on what not to do? And we got to be honest. What are we afraid of? And one of the things we're going to get into is, I just need more money. I need, a bigger salary, or I need, I just need some help. And I'm gonna give you some nuggets to kind of think about, because when we start going through stuff, I want this stuff to be available. And so tonight, it's gonna be a couple of things that can probably save you a couple of $100 a month, $200 or $300 for some, maybe even more. Well, what's a couple of $100 for some? That's all your utilities, or a new car if you need a new car. And one of the areas you look in is your insurances. We get insurance to protect ourselves. If something bad happens, we have someone to kind of step in to, take some of the heat, take some of the financial burden off of us. And like when we get in a car accident, well, we want that insurance, to pay to get our car fixed. But more than anything, to pay if it's our fault, the other person from suing us, and it could be a financial ruin. So insurances are important, but do we understand how to buy them? And one of the things I found out really about insurances, it's not so much what they cover as it is what they don't cover, the exclusions. I remember, in construction, when you're a general contractor, you may have 20, 30, 50, 60 contractors on one of your projects. And when they turn their bids in, and they say, I'm bidding the drywall, and I have 3 people give me bids. Well, you got to be careful of just looking at the lowest number and say, well, if I take the lowest number, I'm going to make the most money. Kind of what we talked about when we talked about the businesses. Are you automatically going to take the one with the highest revenue? Well, let's just take the lowest bid. And if you just went on the lowest bid and you said, okay, now I got a good number, I'm getting ready to make some extra money on this one. But what you didn't read was the exclusions. Because all 3 of those bids may not be created equal. So you have to look at them a little differently. Some may say, well, hey, look, I don't have the finishing. I'm going to hang the studs and the drywall, but I excluded the finish, finishing the drywall, making it smooth. With your insurances, what are the exclusions? So one of the things on your insurance, and this is where I wish it was really interactive. And this is why getting on the Zoom calls could be important. But I'm going to ask everyone, what is your deductibles for your auto, homeowners, renters, health, all those things? And what I found out is most people like to take the lowest deductible. I want a $100 deductible because if something happens, I only have to come out with $100. If I take that $500 deductible, I might not be able to get my car fixed. If I take that $1,000, I may not be able to get my car fixed. Well, you have to ask yourself, how many accidents you've been in? But here's the key to it. That premium on a $100 deductible is a lot more than that premium on a higher deductible. So on that premium on a $100 deductible, it may be $1,000 a year. But for that $1,000 deductible, It may be $700 a year. Well, guess what? In 3.5 years, you done saved your deductible. Now, as they say in Vegas, you're playing with house money. Now you're getting ahead of the game. But what do we do with that money that we're saving now? Typically, we don't do anything with it but spend it. And I'm saying you put that money up. You self-insure yourself. But also, a lot of times people are, so I know insurance people are probably like, oh, no, don't tell them that because I want the higher premium. Well, I'm getting ready to help you out, insurance people. Most people may not even have disability. There may be some other insurances that they may need that they can afford now. The same thing with life insurance. How do you get a whole life policy? Because they tell you, hey, look, it's an investment vehicle, but you only got a $10,000 premium. Face value. Well, if you're gonna have a funeral is a $15,000. So the only thing you're doing is insuring the funeral home. Maybe your term policy works better. Now you can get $250,000 and still save $50. But now if something happens, guess what? You can leave something for your family to kind of make it a little easier on them. They used to, back in the day, they used to have what they call the burial insurance. They only sold it to people in certain demographics. They just sold you enough to maybe bury you, and it still wasn't enough. Now, we all probably gone through family members, or we've been in family squabbles when someone died. It amazes me on Facebook, people have GoFundMe when someone dies. I understand everyone doesn't have money, but that doesn't mean we don't have to be prepared. That's what's important. We have to be prepared. So what can we do? So here's a few $100 you can save just by looking at your insurance. How often do you eat out for lunch? You can save some money there. So my daughters used to hate to go to McDonald's with me, when they were young, because they all wanted their own Happy Meal. I like, wait a minute, girls, the Happy Meal, you don't get but 6 nuggets. Let's get the 20-piece. We got a couple left over. Let's get a couple of big fries and some drinks. We saving money and we got more food. So that's how I used to shop with my girls, and they can tell you. And when they went to go visit their grandmother, grandmother took them to McDonald's, and she said, "All right, girls, get what you want." Well, we get the 20-piece. She said, "Why you get that?" But that's what Dad makes us get. And of course, Mom said, "Girls, go and get your own Happy Meal." But I'm just making a point: how we buy, how we shop. Your utilities. Do you have digital thermostats? Set them off or low or high when you go to work. Okay, so little things like that. So I like nice things. So I want you to have the money to get the nice things. Now, I know we've been talking a whole bunch of Old Testament, and people have been saying, hey, I live under the New Testament. Okay, let me ask you a question. I looked at my family tree. I don't know how many people know their family tree. Maybe their grandmother, great, maybe great. We may know some, on my, paternal side, my great grandmother, it was a Turner, Nat Turner. I'm proud of that heritage. I don't want that to go. So if we from the seed of Abraham, why would we let that go? Is the law really gone? I think Matthew, 5:17 said he came to fulfill the law, not to abolish it. Yeah, we don't have to sacrifice an animal anymore. But there are things we still have to do. Why wouldn't you not want to do some of those things? If those promises are still there, what's the fear of the law? Is it that stringent? Because we still count up the same don'ts. At least the people I've talked with. I'm talking not just from my own experience, but from the thousands of people I've talked to over my lifetime. So if he came to fulfill the law, not to abolish it, why do we want to run from it? And it amazes me that we run from stuff more than run to stuff. And let me give you some examples. You know, when we talk about what we can do and what we can't do, and, you know, when I'm talking with folks, it's always like, well, such and such, they became this great player, or they became this great accountant. They didn't do all that. They didn't have to do that. That how we look for things not to do. You don't know, but see, here's the part. It's kind of like the covenant. When I say you don't know all what's in the contract, you can't judge it. So someone else didn't run 5 miles in the morning every day, and now they are a great, NBA player or football player or whatever. So you say, well, I don't have to run every day. Yeah, but maybe what you didn't know was they was riding a bike, they was in the gym, they had to walk to school. See, we like to take one or two little parts and always try to say what somebody else didn't have to do. And so now I don't have to do it. Next thing you know, you ain't doing nothing because you're looking for stuff not to do. So we talked about, we're going to be looking at our budgets and salaries and how much money is left at the end of the day. How can I really become wealthy? Well, here are some things. I do M&A work, mergers and acquisitions. You say, I don't have a degree. So what? Anybody can buy a business. Why do we always look to try to get a job? And I have look, I got employees. I need employees. But we use that to stop us from moving forward. We got to stop finding excuses not to do stuff. Just because somebody else didn't do it and they made it or did it, don't mean you can. And maybe I just always said, I ain't as good as most people, so I know I always have to work hard. And that's probably the way that's been my whole life. I've always worked hard because I just feel like I got to do better. I got to be better than the next person. So I always put the work in. But we look for reasons not to have to put the work in, or the studying, or whatever. All I'm saying is wherever you are today doesn't mean it's over. Doesn't mean it's over. Now, one of the things, so I also want you to look at, Psalms 9, 8 through 9. And we're going to really talk about the books in their entirety instead of picking verses out, because the context is very important. But one of the things in there is he rules in the righteous and judges with equity. And I remember always having a conversation, about, trying to treat people equally. You can't. And if you have kids, you don't treat your kids equally. And you may say you try. Why? They ain't acting equally. Some do more than the other. So they earn the exact same right. Well, maybe they do in your house, and that's okay if that's what you live by. But God judges with equity. You earn what he gives you. Inheritance, same thing. Yeah, you may be the oldest, but if you ain't doing your job, it's going to skip you. And if I ain't doing my job, it's going to skip me. Because it skips generations sometimes. You know what? Just generation just didn't do it. So what we got to understand who we listen to. And we talked about, Pharaoh is a position, not just that one person. And reading more, is it a Pharaoh spirit that they really don't want to set you free? And people who don't want you to be free come in all shapes and sizes and come in all different places. And places that we visit often. They may sound and it look like they want you to do good, but do they really want you to be free? And I'm not saying you to judge them on that, but what are you listening to make your decisions about what you need to do? So you can go out and buy a business. Now, if you got to get a loan, you got to make sure your credit's good. So we can always make excuses why we can't do whatever. Yeah, we may not have parents that give us $1 million, or when we not making payroll. Hey, Dad, I need a hookup. I know we didn't have that in our family. So we had to grind, and I'm still grinding, but I'm getting off the grind now. I'm 60. Remember, 60. God said you ain't worth that much anymore. But I got that intellectual property. I'm getting ready to work. So I should not be working so hard now. So we have to understand that. And there was a gentleman, a younger man. He was in his early 20s. He came to me kind of looking for some work. And I asked him, have you gone to college or a trade school or anything like that? He said, nah. He said, I had a scholarship, but I didn't go. And I was like, what happened? He said, well, I grew up in the projects, and, I was living with my mama and my aunt, and they told me that I needed to stay there and help them work. And I needed to work to kind of help out. I said, how much money was you making an hour? Minimum wage. How much you was giving it, most of it to them, right? Yeah. That's a good son, ain't it? How about if you take your tail to school, get a degree, or go out and make some real money? And so sometimes people that are closest to us prevent us from moving forward. And I get in debates all the time, but they family, you do whatever. But you might want to read 2 Corinthians 10:3-4. Matthew 10:30-39. This is when Jesus said, I came to bring fathers and daughters against if they don't follow. Who's more important? I know it's hard. Mom, I got to go to school. Yep, they're going to throw the guilt trip on me because I hadn't heard it. Not from my parents, but in other conversations and friends. You don't love me. You need to stay here and help. We did all this for you. You got to get through it. I know it's tough. But I believe I can do better. I can help more when I get out of here. And that's why, a lot of times when people, come into a lot of money, they start giving a lot of their money away, not because they really want to, deep down, because I've worked with some athletes and entertainers that was the biggest thing I had to get them to understand is that, man, you do more by doing better. And maybe I'm just missing it. Maybe I just miss it. But you got to ask yourself, what motivates you? How honestly can you say, I make these decisions based upon what God's telling me to do? That's why we got to have this covenant. That's why, we're going to work on this contract. We should be writing stuff down that you want in your contract. And what I'm finding out, especially these last 3 years, and especially talking about so much about mental health. This is mental as it gets. They talk about sports, it's 80% mental, it's 90% mental. This sport is that. Life is 90% mental. Because you got to break through barriers. So we got to understand that part. And 2 Corinthians talks about, we to live in this world. That's 10:3-4. But the war's against strongholds. And if you remember early on, we talked about we got to bring strongholds. So for those who are New Testament people, I gave you Matthew, I'm giving you 2 Corinthians. So I'm giving you New Testament. You don't have to sacrifice a goat. So they used to sacrifice a goat when they push it over the mountain. And that's why they say, man, don't make me the scapegoat. That's where scapegoat came from. The sacrifice. Oh man, he the scapegoat. He the sacrifice. The problem is we say we don't live in the Old Testament, but we scapegoating ourselves. So if you want to let the Old Testament go, now if you want to let go of your history, your grandma and them and all them, you can. But this is what we really got to get through to move forward. And this is hard. And I'm saying this, all of us go through this, even those who are doing well financially. That's why they say money can't make you happy. Because those strongholds are still there. So if you think having more money is going to make you happy, it may not if the strongholds are there. But you hear people say, man, I enjoy it more because I earned it. And we've been talking about God gives us the tools to do that. But we got to perform. We got to do our part. We can't just worry about the don'ts and we out of it. It's important. This is the personal view. I'm telling my personal view. I had to fight through moving forward because I hadn't done some not good stuff in my life. And I can say, you know what? I need to just sit back and not do so well and push forward because people will think I'm not sorry. I don't feel bad about it. That's why, timeout used to be, was funny to me. When I didn't hear about timeout probably up to my 30s and 40s. My kids were kind of, 5 or 6, 7, I didn't do timeout. Because what is it? I'm not saying to do it or not do it. The point I'm making is, what is the punishment? Do we punish ourselves more than the world punishes us? Or are we allowing them to have that Pharaoh spirit over us, not let us go? And we just feel like, yeah, I was wrong. I've been wrong in a whole bunch of stuff in my life. But I got to keep moving. God did it. He gave people new covenants. He changed the covenant. They didn't always listen. You know, Moses was at the burning bush, and he was making excuses. God keeps saying, I am who I am. Just tell I am who I am. Well, what if they don't listen? How many times did Moses come up with excuses? Remember, he killed one of the Egyptians. Then his own people say, oh, you going to kill us like you killed him? Oh, okay, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah. Let me just go sit in my corner and be quiet. And I'm telling you, I've seen it in my life and people's lives. This is what gets us. We're afraid to push through. But we'll be the first one to say, praise the Lord, I'm washed in the blood. And get right home and be depressed and messed up and can't move forward because we worry about we offended someone and now we got to pay the penalty. And see, sin is bad. What does sin really give us? What does God really, why does God want to keep us from sin? I believe because we give up our time. When we're doing something we're not supposed to do, we're not doing something we're supposed to be doing. It's that time. It's time that we give up. So, we do something bad, or we going to, get hit by a truck. And is that why all this stuff happened? Is that why, I got cancer because I've been so bad? No, I got cancer because I ain't pay attention to what was going on. All the other stuff cost me a whole bunch of money. All that sin cost me some money, some time, relationships, and cost me a whole bunch. I can quantify it in dollars. It's 7 digits. It ain't happening no more. I ain't paying that price. That's too big a price. Too big a price for me. But we got to get honest with ourselves. What are we willing to give up or go towards? I don't think it's so much about giving up who we are as opposed to doing more of who we are and what God called us to do. And that covenant that he talked about so much, and they talk about the covenant in the New Testament too. We're going to get there later on. Covenants all throughout. But have we really ever made a covenant? Is it that we just carry our salvation? Remember, salvation is just the helmet. That's just only part of the armor. It's not all of it. So I'm just trying now to fulfill my covenant with God. And what I can tell you, these last 3 years, and especially this last year, has been the best year of my life. And I can say it hadn't been the best financial year. But it hasn't taken away from my quality of my life. The quality of my life is through the roof. So you can have your own measurement, your own indicators. Remember, we talked about indicators, and we're going to get to some indicators. But what indicators are really most important to you? Is it the bank account? Is it your peace of mind when you come home, you're calm? For me, it's getting off that hamster wheel. I've been a redliner my whole life. And I'm trying to slow down. And it ain't easy. Has nothing to do with sin. It's my brain now. And things have just been kind of happening. Just take it easy. You ain't got to do nothing today. What I want you to do are these things today. Learn more about this. Do a little bit more of that. See, when you do those things, the don'ts don't happen. I'm saying this. Business people that sat in my office wouldn't have been in business, 90% of them, if they hadn't got fired, laid off or something. They didn't do it because they thought it was the right thing to do. I wouldn't be sitting here talking about this and talking about health on my other day if I ain't had cancer. I wouldn't feel this good about myself if I didn't have cancer. You can't tell me cancer is bad. Can't tell me that. I'm not buying it. Because I know where I am now. Because I'm saying, God, here it is. I want that extension. I want a max contract. That's what they tell these athletes. You know, I've been watching, some ESPN, they said such and such just signed the max deal. That means he got the max. Because he did everything he was supposed to do to earn that max. Now, if he would have done some stuff and said, hey, man, we don't know his character, he could be in trouble. I'm just saying, we have to get real with ourselves. We can't worry about what others are thinking or saying because we're following God. We're getting our covenant together. This is my contract that I'm writing. And God's getting ready. We both getting ready to sign this covenant together. So if you want to sign that covenant, God will give it to you. It's not as bad as people may think it is. So I'm going to get ready to get out of here because, I know I have my life.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Series, hosted by internationally known CPA, CVA, and USA champion runner Corey D. Moody. Don't miss the Financial Series next week at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for life-changing insight about your personal value and financial value based on biblical principles. On behalf of Corey D. Moody, have a blessed and prosperous week.
Awesome. Thank you again, my brother, so much for this week's session. And ladies and gentlemen, we just thank you. Please, if you so desire to follow there it is right there, the pod. There you go. Also, if you really want to sow a seed into the ministry of the Renaissance Fellowship, you can do that through Givelify. You can also do that through Cash App. And we just thank you again, Brother Moody, for coming on and sharing with us this week. And really, really, really great information. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you that are watching across, I see numbers are going different places. We just, again, thank you for your time, your talents, your energy, for joining the Renaissance Fellowship as we bring to you this financial series with Mr. Corey D. Moody, certified public accountant. How many of you really have met a Black certified public accountant and certified valuation analyst? It's very important. And I say that a lot of times we say race doesn't matter. Well, a lot of times in the midst of racial tension going on, we do need to acknowledge that. And I think it's very important that we acknowledge his skill set and what he brings to this table and what he brings every week. We thank God for what he continues to do and what he continues to bring and how he continues to impact your life. And as we close out tonight, we thank you. And we ask, ladies and gentlemen, that you type into the chat any special requests that you want to pray for. We'll pray for those offline for you. Pray for your finances. Sow a seed into the ministry and sow seed into your life. Invest in yourself. That's why it's very important. And we thank you again for joining us. And this is it. This is it for tonight. Blessings upon each of you, all of you. Thank you and have a wonderful, blessed evening. We'll see you next week. Thank you.